so it turned out to be a woman from England who was a channeler who was working with the London Police Department and helping them find lost and missing children. So I didn't know anything about channeling at that time. This was like in 1975. And I thought, well, whatever, just so I can be on the land. And so when I got into the group, most of them had injuries. They'd had gunshot wounds, and they were on, they had the, what is it called that when you're having liquid put into you all the time? Yeah, and they had cancer and different illnesses. So we all were brought first to the pools there at Esalen. We sat in the pools, and then all of a sudden they said, now here comes Jenny O'Connor, who's leading this workshop. So all of a sudden I see this movement, and we're all in the hot tubs. And this thing is coming toward me, and it was just this golden ball of light. And it was walking toward me, coming toward all of us, and I'm blinking my eyes, thinking the sun must be shining on this person really strong because the light is so bright around her. And I couldn't see any person, just this egg, bright egg. And so I heard the egg say, now anyone who would like a healing, come on up on the massage table. So I leaped up and went right there, beating everyone else because they were all sick. And normally I wait and I'm last, and ridiculously so that way. But I leaped up for something, went on the table, laid down. The egg came over close to me, 2 hands poked out above my body, and boom, I went out of body right like that. It was so amazing. And this seminar for a week turned out to be wonderful because what happened as she was receiving the communications and sharing with us, I was receiving them as well. And this was the group that said they were as bright as the light of Sirius. And they were called the 9 because there were as many as 1 or 9, all of the integers in our mathematical system. And subsequently, I went to places with Jenny, helping with people who had possessions and helping to release them and bring the light in and things such as that. And so for years and years, I had the 9 channeling through me. I have books, like I know a lot of you have too, of all the things you've written in the past. And a lot of it now is about what's happening now. And at that time, your bodies would change from carbon-based to crystalline, and a lot of the information is what we're experiencing now. So I mention that because when I first went into the water with the dolphins, it was identical to the vibrations of Sirius. I felt them, it was the same vibration, and I was right away, felt very close to them, very much at ease with them. And I asked a lot of questions of the dolphins in the beginning, and of course I wanted to know about where they came from, and I asked, were they Syrian beings, and that information there is in this book right in the beginning with some of the messages they gave me in answer to that question. And they said actually that they did carry a lot of Syrian energies, but it wasn't 100%, that they were multi-planetary beings that were from a number of different locations. So these were some of the dolphins that I was meeting back then, and many of them are still here. I found that the dolphins live at least 50 years, probably longer. They're very much like humans, so we don't really know how long they live in the wild. But anyway, I asked the dolphins then, how did you get to planet Earth? And so they told me that they came through what they showed me in acoustic imagery was a window in time. So I said, well, what is a window in time? And they said, well, we just looked at your timeline, and on planet Earth you all believe that everything, that's linear, that you have a past, present, and future. And so we could look at your past, your present, we can see your future also, and we could see where it would be safe to come in without disturbing anything in your civilization, because of course they're not supposed to disturb other civilization. And so they checked very carefully and found the right place where no one would notice, and they came onto the planet at that point. These are the Hawaiian spinner dolphins that were giving me this information. And they said they stayed out in the deep water so that they were not noticed very much just by boats, but in general, people were not paying much attention to them. And they told me that when the time came for the changes to occur on Earth, and for all the people who were walk-ins, who were here, and compared to the dolphins who were swim-ins, that they would come close to shore and begin leaping in the air and tempting us into the ocean, and we would want to go. And so we were waiting for that time. And now I know this is something that's called vertical intervention. When another species or race comes into our planet, or we go in and out, when they come in straight into our timeline, this particular timeline, vertical intervention. And so they came and they stayed there, and then when the time came for them to come closer, and we were all meant to work together with the dolphins and whales in the ocean, then, as I said, they made their presence known. So I said, well, how long ago was that? And they said, it's not that long ago. You know, they just were saying like a couple of 100 years. And I said, what? You know, everybody knows dolphins have been here for millions of years and all that. So they showed me this whole story, which was very hard to believe at the time, that not only did they come in, but they brought in all the history of dolphins with them, all the images, the statues, the hieroglyphs, all the stories about people with dolphins. All of that was brought into our planet, into our minds, into that of scientists and books all around the world. Boom! They were alive in the ocean, and their history came in with them. And it was all there. So you can imagine that was a little hard for me to imagine back in 1989. So I went to the kahuna here, my friend Lanakila, and I said, you know, I've noticed in all of your Hawaiian chants and songs, there's a lot of mention of sharks, but no mention of dolphins. And I said, why is that? And he just looked me in the eye and said, they weren't here. So I thought, whoa, that's interesting. I mean, they're ocean-going people, and they just didn't see them at that time. So then even another time, I was bringing groups to Egypt to swim in the Red Sea with the dolphins there, and we were visiting the different pyramids and all, and I'm looking at the hieroglyphs there in the temple, and all of a sudden, down the bottom there, I saw one that was a dolphin. And I was so amazed, you know, because there were all these beautiful artistic drawings and words and letters and marks and there's a dolphin. So there were two Egyptologists with us that were talking in our ears. We were trying to meditate, but they kept telling us about the temple and all the history and, you know, all the 3D kind of stuff. And so finally I asked them, well, look, there's a dolphin down there. And they knew we were there to swim with the dolphins in the Red Sea, and that we were interested in that. So they looked, and they both looked, and they looked down, and they whipped the little books they had out of their back pockets that were all, you know, worn down and corner-eared and broken up, and they're flipping through it and talking in Egyptian, and they couldn't find a dolphin hieroglyph any place in their whole book, and they couldn't understand how it got there. So dolphins missed out there. They were supposed to have put that in the book. But since then, there's been a lot of other things that kind of corroborate that on this timeline, how they actually, some of them have come in more recently than we realize. So,